All right, and we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another week. Alex, I mean, do we want to just talk about this crash that we all just experienced? Should we jump into it? I mean, how are you feeling right now?
Well, I did survive. I'm here. We're all still here. Phantasmal Flames.
Oh,
Charizard seems to be the deciding factor right now, man. We just checked TCG player. It seems that things are headed back up on Phantasmal Flames. I thought everything was going down. I don't know.
dang. Well, I hope everyone took advantage of the massive crash that just happened the last couple of weeks. Hopefully people took advantage of the reprints that just occurred, but of course, we'll talk a lot about that. But before we jump into it, as always, make sure you leave a like, comment down below, subscribe, really helps the channel. And as always, check out Alex and his content link is down in the description below for that.
If you didn't get in, you may not have another chance ever to get in.
Dude, I think people missed the boat, bro. I think it's
You think
over.
so?
Like, I think that we appreciate you leaving a like, commenting. Like, definitely do that if you're here. But once you're done with that, like, I mean, there's nothing for you at this point. Like, you kind of messed up by not buying the team up in Evolving Skies reprint. So I don't know, man. It's crazy, Alex, because like it happened so fast that like prices, it looks like they almost never even crashed to begin with. Like that's how fast the crash was. It was insane.
I mean, I picked some up for $100 a box.
Dude.
Like nobody else got that deal, but I was able to find it.
I was about to say, bro, that was even better deal than I mean, Distro was selling it to me for $250. So that's an insane deal, dude.
Dude, that is okay. Like, I'm not saying that I have every, special deal, all the ins. I don't know every big player in the hobby, but between me and Eli, I think we know enough people at this point. And I think that is the most obnoxious thing that you hear over every social media site these days is everyone always talking about these ludicrous deals they're always supposedly finding. Like everyone's always got this like inside track. I just picked up these for this price. You're like, dude, there's nowhere in the world that's selling it at that price. They're like, oh, I got them. Like, okay, all right. I'm sure you did, Timmy. Good for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's the most obnoxious thing going in the hobby right now is all the like, yeah, obviously you can find drops and things for MSRP, but like, dude, there'll be some like just like ridiculous stuff out there. Like, oh, really? You found them for $50 under MSRP, did you? Where'd you find that? Oh, I can't reveal my source. Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's annoying when people bring that up to you personally as well. And then you're like, oh, that's really cool that you got that deal. Hook me up. And then they're like, oh, okay, well. And I don't remember. I was like, all right, pull up the person that you're referencing and I can just reach out to them. Oh, well, I don't have the actual information. And it's just like they just come up with some excuse how they can't, help you get a source of where their information came from. And you're just like, all right, you're obviously lying. I don't know what the point is of you telling me this.
Yeah. It'd be like going to like, Warren Buffett or somebody and trying to like talk to them about investing, right? Or like, trying to have a conversation with like Ronaldo or Messi on like soccer or like talking like Mr. Olympia, like trying to tell him like about how to diet and work out. It's just like, what do you do? Guys, we do this all day, every day, our full-time job. Like we've been in this for years. Like, but somehow you got it all figured out for like 5 months. You're right.
Yeah, it's interesting. But
and it's not even being like mean or like, it's just like, dude, I don't have time for the nonsense. Like I don't care,
Yeah, I don't have time for dishonest people. I feel like you're just doing a dishonor and disservice to your own integrity. Like honestly, I don't get it. But anyway, let's talk about it, man. How are you feeling about Phantasmal right now? Actually, you know what? Before we jump into that, tell us about Collecticon.
Look, I'm going to give you my personal experience. Other people may have different experiences at different shows, different parts of the country. I don't know. But Collecticon was strong, dude. Again, another shout out to Dr. Applesauce. He luckily was there and walked us inside. I didn't have to wait in the line that was wrapping around the building and had to be like thousands of people deep. I'm sure some people were standing in line for hours. So luckily he pulled us in and didn't have to stand in that. And I was able to get in there. But yeah, man, like every vendor I talked to, and I tried to talk to everybody. I tried to talk to like the people with 1 or 2 tables, all the way up to anyone that was managing like a whole section. A couple of my local card shops in my area were there vending. Everyone was reporting strong sales. There wasn't a single person there that like said they were having a bad show. Every person, one of the things I really wanted to mention, I talked about my video I released earlier. Every single person that like either came up to me or I was talking to, nobody mentioned the market one time, which I thought was very odd. No one talked about the TCG player charts, eBay auctions ending at certain prices, the downturn, the crash. People were just talking about normal stuff you would think Pokemon collectors would talk about. Talking about the cards they're looking for there to complete a master set, talking about what they collect, what they're looking for, right? People buying Phantasmal Flames at, you know, $350 a box, $75 a bundle, and then walking over to tables and just opening it and having fun and pulling cards. And, you know, I even hung out with some people over there who were opening cards. I never heard anything about estimated value. I didn't hear anything about I didn't make my money back or I lost this much or that. They were just happy to pull the cards, put them in binders, having fun with their friends. I think we just get such a warped view of the hobby in this sphere and in the content space. And I just think it's not telling of the overall broad hobby. Like people, they just like the stuff. They want to collect the things they want to collect. They want to open packs. They have the money to buy it. They're buying it. They're not thinking about how it's affecting things. Like, oh, if I buy this, it'll send the charts higher. If I don't buy this, hopefully it'll crash. Or, you know, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to buy that later. I'm going to buy this card now because it's a good time to buy. These people don't think about that stuff. Like all the stuff that everyone online is thinking about, these people don't think about that. They just like Pokemon. So that was the big kind of consensus I got from being at the event.
Yeah, there's always definitely a big disconnect, I feel like, from online versus in person. I've talked about that, I feel like, an extent when it comes to the shop, because I've had so many people come in the store and they literally know nothing about Pokemon investing. And they're like, I'm just here to rip packs. And some of them pay attention to what market prices are. Some of them don't even understand the concept of market price. And they're just coming in because they're a fan and they know that this is a place to get packs. Like, it is honestly fascinating to see at base level how uninformed people are about certain aspects of the hobby. And that doesn't mean it's a good thing or a bad thing. It just is just a fact, right? Because who certain things they don't need to be informed about. Now, certain things I think they do need to be informed about, like the fact is you can buy product on eBay and not get scammed, but so many people have this like impression of like, oh, let me go buy in a card shop because I can trust that the store is going to have legit product more so than if I go online, buy some from some random person, and then it ends up being shipped to me and it's been, you know, repackaged or it's been, you know, tampered with in some form of a way, or it's just a fake product altogether. So like, it's just fascinating. And people, like you said, like people come into the shop, dude, and they'll buy a big item like an Evolving Skies booster box or a Lost Origin booster box or just like a big $1,000+ booster box. And I'll be like, oh man, like, are you adding that to like your collection? Like, not even investing. Like, are you adding this to your like sealed product collection? And they're like, sealed product collection? Nah, I'm ripping it. And they just ripped like several $1,000 box. And they're like, man, I just spent like a crazy amount of money on this evolving box and I only got a Dragonite altar. And I'm just like, dude, what did you expect? Like, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to get the Moonbryon. So it's just wild to see people be gambling, man.
I just got a really good sentiment. Like put it this way, right? Like GameStop, PSA, like all these companies, they're continuing to invest more and more time and resources into the hobby, right? You have some of the larger card stores that are always looking like to expand right now, right? You have all the vendors I talked to are very optimistic. Like if I had to put one word on the total event, it was optimism. Like so many people I talked to are looking to vend more shows next year than they did this year. Everyone was just like looking to continue to grow and continue to do well in the hobby. And, you know, vendors, they were not discounting products. Products were 100% of market, if not more than market. Very little negotiation happening. I mean, obviously, if you were buying, you know, multiple things, if you were paying cash, there's always some sort of negotiation. But people were not dumping. They weren't just like, oh, here, I'll take it. I need to sell. I need to get rid of this stuff. It wasn't that at all. Almost everybody was buying. 80 to 90% were average comps. If you had real high end, you know, good sealed, people were paying up to 90, high end good slabs. And I sold some of mine for 90. People were paying 90% still in a crashing, terrible market with no confidence. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to pay 90%. There were some people paying 90% there. There were a large amount of people paying 85%. I'm going to tell you right now, you go back into 2022 after the collapse, you know, after everything, the COVID was over, dude, you're not finding people paying 85, 90%. It wasn't happening. And so I think that's pretty telling of where we're at.
So you said, I mean, you didn't have to wait in the line, but like realistically, how long of a wait would someone have to have just to get into the event?
It had to be a couple hours.
Just to get into the event is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it was wrapped around this giant convention center.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, there had to be a couple thousand people in line.
This might be a hot take to say, but if you had to wait that long to get in, would you think it would be worth it?
Oh, I wouldn't. I would have just went down the street and probably sat at a breakfast place for an hour or so and then came back and, assess the situation. I would have just came in late. I wouldn't have just stood there in line. I would have waited till there was no line, because there was no line by the afternoon. I probably would have just went at like noon.
Yeah.
I
was about to say, because that sounds like awful.
Yeah. I mean, the line dissipates after doors open. Like if you came at like 12 or 1 p.m., you'd be fine.
Okay. That's good to know at least.
Yeah.
Do you think that like how do I want to say this? Do you think for someone that's going to go to an event like this, what do you think the demographic typically is? Is it like just casual collectors? Is it people that want to find more rare vintage items? Like what is usually the demographic? What's the kind of booths that you're going to find here when it comes to what people can have access to?
I think you hit the nail on the head, both of those. I think it's those mixes. It's casual collectors who maybe just want to experience the event, go with their friends. They're going to just buy stuff they're looking to collect. They're probably going to play the dice games and the wheel spins or whatever, just there to experience it. See Jason Page sing the Pokemon song, all that good stuff. And then the other end is going to be your high-end buyers who they want to find some specific, vintage or, rare card, specific vintage boxes or things. And they probably have a much better chance at the larger card shows like Collecticon, because more of those big time vendors are going to be there, especially in like a Texas one. And they're going to bring a lot of those cards you don't normally see come to market very often, or, they just don't want to buy something like that online. They can just feel much better in person. It's definitely going to be those two demographics mostly. I would say a lot more than like an investor or, something like that.
That makes sense. Do you think that how do you think the pricing is for most of the stuff there? Like how similar is it to market?
High.
Yeah.
There's a good amount of vendors that price pretty much at market. But they're definitely proud of their more like desirable items. The more desirable slabs, the more desirable sealed products are definitely like 110, 120% of market. And again, everything I tried to buy some stuff. I was looking at some XY Sun and Moon stuff for breaks. I even looked at some vintage stuff to try to make it. Everyone was they didn't want to negotiate.
Really?
No, not a lot of negotiation. At least for me, maybe others did. Maybe I just suck, right? I mean, I'm pretty confident in my negotiating, but it wasn't happening, dude. People wanted top dollar for their stuff, and they weren't afraid to hold on to it. And I mean, that was, again, like the confidence is still very high.
So, well, this will be a good segue when you're talking about high prices. Phantasmal. Let's talk about Phantasmal at the event, and then let's just talk about Phantasmal, period.
Phantasmal at the event, like I told you beforehand, there was vendors that, started at 300 a box. It was selling too quick. So they raised it. And by the end of Saturday, I think they were selling for like 350 a box, and it was still selling. Booster bundles were selling for like 75. ETBs were over 100. Some people had the GameStop exclusive Moltres UPCs there, which aren't out yet. I believe maybe someplace in GameStops in Canada maybe have already released it. So somehow they had their hands on it, and they were selling those, I think, for like 240 a UPC, and they were moving quick. Anything new was just flying, just like, wildfire.
I guess I'm a little confused because I mean, maybe this is just what my distros have told me, but I thought they're not allowed to sell product for Pokemon until the Monday of the week release if you're a pre-release store. So how are these people getting access to this product so early? And then two, how are they able to do? I mean, they're probably not, but for an event that big, you would assume that it'd be policed in some form of one way or another, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, some of the sellers were some of the bigger sellers, so it's like, I know they have distribution. I know they're getting it through distribution. And so it'd be different if you're buying it from someone else and you're selling it second market. You don't really have any contracts with Pokemon or anything. So it's like, I guess you're technically off the hook. But some of these guys, I know for a fact they're getting it straight from distro. So I don't know how they're doing it. I guess they're just rolling the dice at this point.
So what is your kind of predictions at this point for Phantasmal? I mean, just kind of seeing the price. We talked about it a little bit before stream. It was at like 280, 290, and now it's at 315. So it's obviously been going up at least. I mean, that would be around a 10% jump at least in the past week. So, I mean, we got released this Friday. What are your thoughts?
Did you get less than Mega?
Like 5 or 10% less than Mega.
So, I mean, I have a couple of sources I get boxes through, early. All the sources not only charged me more than Mega, but also gave me less than Mega. So I had to pay more and get less of the set. So that's already telling. Obviously, it's already in 2 waves like Mega was. So I think it's going to be just like Mega, man. I think in the beginning, it's probably going to hold its value really well. It might even rise in value. And we're probably not going to see a price decline until the next wave hits, like we saw with Mega Evolutions. We're going to know a lot more after this week, after I rip it all week. I haven't ripped it yet. Tonight's going to be the first night. So we'll kind of see how it goes and how people are responding to it. But judging from how fast it was selling at the show and judging from how expensive the Japanese Charizards still are from Inferno X, and some of the early sales on the Charizards from this set being in like the upper thousands, like I think it was like $1,500 to $2,000 for the Charizard. I think it's going to be the real deal. Now, the only, I think, issue is it being a small set. Maybe it doesn't have as long of a life cycle in the beginning. Like maybe people only open it in mass for the first like 3-4 weeks because they get the cards quick enough because it's a small set. But yeah, I think it's going to be strong, man. I think a lot of it's going to get ripped. There's seems like less to go around. So if this is similar amounts or more get ripped than Mega and it's more popular, probably going to see prices hold pretty stable, dude.
Interesting. Yeah. Phantasmal.
Hold on. Let's also talk about how it's delayed too, by the way. Apparently, like Pokemon Center.
There is delays. I've been getting word that there's been delays that have been happening for some of the product.
Yeah, my local card shops, they, at least ones I've talked to, they haven't got their ETBs. They have bundles, they have booster boxes, no ETBs. So there are still delays. Pokemon Center seems to be on delay. I believe that GameStop exclusive Moltres UPC was supposed to be out sooner than this. I think it's pushed back. I could be wrong on that. But this like rhetoric about like, Pokemon having all this stuff ready, they're going to dump it on the holidays or Black Friday. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. The fact of the matter is there's absolutely no confirmation out there. Everyone's told you this. I don't know why people still don't believe us. They don't believe me and you. Rudy's talked about it. I know in one of Rudy's videos, he said, look, I hope there's all these reprints people talk about all over the internet. I'm going to buy a bunch. I have no limit at how much I can buy. I have infinite money. But Rudy said, I have not heard one thing from any of my contacts about any reprints. And still you have people just spouting this nonsense about all these supposed reprints. There's nothing out. There's no information. And I think it's just finally setting in with people, like, so they can't even get products out on time, but they're going to have massive reprints. How's that work?
We're in an interesting time in the market. I don't know, man. It's November. I mean, it's officially a full year now, going on since Surging came out. When did Surging? What was the exact date for Surging again?
I believe it was November last year.
Release date was November 8th. Yep. So we're officially a year now since Surging.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was what kind of kicked it off. So this is a market that has been crazy for such a long period of time. I'm still of a believer it will end at some point, but at this point, my only answer is that don't plan on reprints coming. Like, I would love to say that there's a possibility that reprints are going to come because Pokemon has made announcements of it, but we have zero sort of information saying when that is going to occur. And we have zero sort of information if that product is occurring through distribution. Because realistically, they made the announcement about it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be addressed through LGSs. That doesn't mean it's going to be addressed through booster boxes. It doesn't mean it's going to be addressed through specific items that you would assume they would come from. Like a good example is right now, you obviously have the Charizard Ultra Premium collections that they're coming out with, and they're printing an insane amount of those. Like I would say the last time we saw a printing of this size was back when they did the original Charizard Ultra Premium collections during the Sword and Shield era, right? But like for 151 premium collections, they did not print nearly this much for distribution. So I wonder if their way of like addressing reprints is by printing these products, because they can put a wide array of Scarlet Violet era stuff inside of it that people can then be able to get their hands on. And it can hopefully crash the price of some of the single packs. Who knows? I have no clue what their strategy is here with this specific product. But all I'm telling you is that right now, like,
it's so weird. It's such a weird product to print a lot of.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath here. Like,
why do you think they printed so much of that specific product?
Like I said, my only real assumption is just based on the fact that it allows them to get a wide array of these loose packs out on the market. Like that's literally it, right? Because if you saw what happened last time with the Charizard Ultra Premium collections, like it did help the price of the single loose packs. It just didn't affect the majority of the, price of the sealed product for ETBs, booster boxes, etc. And
which
that's
just good. It's what you want.
Yeah. So who knows if they're going to obviously do anything along the lines of that type of product, booster boxes, ETBs. But I mean, this is just kind of what we're running with right now. So yeah, we'll see.
I mean, again, I'm with you. I think eventually things will come back to some sort of new normal. I mean, we were talking beforehand though, like I don't know what deals everybody has with their distributors, but I do know unless you have like, actually agreed upon, contracts or deals, I think most smaller stores now, even mid-level stores, I think are all paying 100 or 100 plus a booster box now, which people don't remember. Back in Sword and Shield era, it was usually like in the high 70s.
Most stores were paying anywhere between 82 to 86. If you were in the 70s, it was a negotiated price.
Okay, so let's say like the big guys were paying like 78 up to 86 for the small. So now we're up to the big guys maybe paying like high 80s, low 90s, up to like the mid like 105, 106 range. And so that in and of itself just tells you like where, if there was a new bottom, it's going to be a higher bottom than it was before. And there's no telling if they're going to raise MSRP again when we get past the mega generation into the next the actual new generation what is it, 10 or whatever?
Yeah.
So if they have another rise, then distro rises it into like the 110s or whatever for regular person, 110s. It's going to continue to push the bottom further and further up to where things even could fall if things kind of do collapse or whatever. So I don't know. I just think people need to get comfortable with change. I think this idea that things are always going to go back to normal, is largely the kind of like misconstrued on like normal, like quote unquote normal. Like what is normal, right? I mean, I just don't think this like $80, $90 booster box thing or these like $30, $40 ETBs are ever going to be a normal that we know again.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's going to probably be what's next in terms of if we were to see some sort of price correction or a stabilization of the market, it's probably going to come from an MSRP increase when the new set generation comes out. I mean, that's just what makes the most sense. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was definitely a huge shift of like momentum slowing down near the back half of like the Sword and Shield era. But Scarlet and Violet and the base set and everything that came with that definitely made things a lot less appealing for people to pick up. And here's the thing, right? Like, this sounds crazy to say, but if you really think about it, when was the last time that we had a set from the Mega era, whatever you want to call it, and the Scarlet and Violet era that didn't have a major chase from a popularized character? Like realistically, because when you had obviously Scarlet Violet base, it was all Gen 9 Pokemon, right? Like, you could say the Gardevoir, but realistically, like, that wasn't carrying it. And Paldea, it was the Magikarp, which was a gorgeous art design, really cool card. But at the time, people weren't saying, man, I want this Magikarp card. It was actually the Iono. The
Right.
Iono was the card that everyone wanted that was the most expensive. And everything else was just a bunch of cards from Gen 9, which is why people really hated the set, because they looked at it and said, oh, this is just a set full of a bunch of the new Pokemon. We don't care about that. We haven't had a set like that in forever. Like, obviously, with the first mega set, we've obviously got a Lucario, and people are a huge fan of that. We've got the Gardevoir, we've got the Venusaur, Ivysaur, Bulbasaur line, right? Like, people are a huge fan of that. You've obviously got the black and white set, which was, I mean, you don't have to be a black and white fan to not appreciate some of the art designs for the cards, especially the rarity change that they had with the new style. Then we had,
by the way,
Destined, like,
Black Bolt is doing extremely well.
yeah.
No
Then
no one's talking about that, because obviously the rhetoric, the flavor of the week is everything's crashing and we only show charts that are going down. But no one's talking about how Black Bolt packs, I mean, last time I checked, they were $10, and the Zekrom was actually rising in price. No one wants to talk about that because, again, it's something positive. You don't want to talk about positive things.
Yeah. And then Destined, and then Journey, and then Prismatic, and then Surging. Like, if you go back to the start of it, you had a main Pikachu, you had another Moonbreon, you had obviously 2 other sets with trainer Pokemon, which people have been waiting for forever to incorporate again, right? Like, actual trainer Pokemon, right? I'm not talking about like the character rares. I'm talking about like the OG trainer Pokemon style of art.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, when are we going to get a set that isn't going to include a popular character as a main chase? And I don't think that's going to realistically happen until we get into the next generation. Because right now, we're going into a Charizard set. And Charizard, regardless of whether or not we think this could be just them doing the same exact formula as they have historically, which it obviously is, it is still a card that is a cool art design, and we are still in a hot market where people are going to go crazy for a set like this.
Yeah, and then, dude, we can just like talk about the overall, I mean, economic outlook. I mean, hey, government apparently is opening back up. So that's going to kind of be, you know, crisis averted, at least for the holidays, right? And there's a lot of very interesting talk. And again, it's not any certain opinion. It's just kind of what it usually means. There's talks of 50-year mortgages. 50-year mortgage. Again, would I ever take out a 50-year mortgage? No. Do I think it's a bad long-term financial decision? Sure. What does it do, though? Get your payments lower. Rates coming down. Rates are continuing to be cut, and it looks like they're going to keep being cut. What does that mean? Lower interest rates for homes. What does that mean? People can refinance their debt into their homes, right? Removing all that credit card, anything they've acquired, get all that wrapped in their home, maybe even throw it in a 50-year mortgage, right? And get your monthly bills lower, get your credit cards freed up, right? Now people have more spending power again. So you have that going on. There's even talks of freaking more stimulus checks from the tariff revenue going out if that ends up happening. Like, there's a lot of talks right now that it doesn't matter how you feel about, you know, the government, how you feel about Trump, how you feel about any of these things long-term financially, all that's irrelevant. All it means is there could be things happening that puts more money in people's pockets, at least for the short term, which will keep the market going, whether you like it or not. It'll keep spending continuing.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing, I'll tell you one thing. Dan Ketchum-All Collectible says it best. People are allergic to money, and consumers will consume. Consumers will spend. And if they have an option to get lower bills and more cash in their pockets, they're going to use that cash.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah, it's definitely a fascinating time right now to like kind of witness with everything going on. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that, like I said before, I think we're going to have to wait some time before we see some real reprieve in this market. But even then, like, it's only going to be reprieve on new sets. Like, old sets are not going to stop. I mean, I was talking about it a little bit before stream. I remember like just 6 months ago to like a year ago, I was able to get Diamond and Pearl booster boxes pretty easily. Like, I saw people making listings for them all the time on like Instagram posts and stuff. for specific ones. And like now it's so difficult. Like it is ridiculously difficult to be able to find listings for them because I don't know, regardless of whether you're a fan of that kind of era, at what point do you start to say to yourself, it's like such a scarce product that do you feel good letting go of a box like that for 8 or 9 grand when literally an XY era box or a Sun and Moon era box is going for that price? Like
I think both are hard. I think it's hard to pay some of the prices for some of these boxes. And I also think it's hard to let them go if you have them, because if you have them and you're like a collector, you have to come to the grips with the fact that you might just not find one in the wild again, anywhere near a reasonable price. But then as a buyer, you have to be like, well, I'm spending so much, I'm locking so much money in this one product. I don't know how it's going to perform. I don't know how hard it's going to be to find someone to buy it in the future, but I really want it. It's hard on both ways, dude.
Yeah.
Both sides. I would love to have, all my XY boxes back. I love XY era. It's when I got into the hobby again. But I'm also, who knows, maybe if I get like uber wealthy, but like I can easily afford all of the boxes. But I just, it's too hard for me to go put $10,000 in a Flash Fire Phantom Forces box. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to buy it at that price.
So if
that means I never own it again, that's fine.
That's one of the things I think about, not all the time, but I definitely think about it. Because like I have had twice that I've owned Majestic Dawn booster boxes. And one of them was one that was in really good condition. And I bought it for $5,500 and I sold it for $72. Right. So I made a good chunk of money off of it. And this was like years ago, right? This was actually money that I was using towards my move when I moved from Oregon to Arizona back at the end of 2022, right? So
yeah, I remember that. You sold pretty much everything, didn't you?
I did just because I didn't have enough room for stuff and I needed money to move, right?
Yep.
And I say to myself, like, okay, if I look at the price of a lot of these boxes, right? Like, let's just say I took that exact same box and I held on to it versus I took that money and we'll say I'll take the original 5,500 and I then instead put it towards Lost Origin.
Right.
Where would I be? Obviously much better with Lost Origin, right? I think where it becomes a little bit more difficult is for these items, at least from my personal experience with some of the investments that I've made, they are outperforming a lot of these vintage boxes, but finding these vintage boxes is still extremely difficult. And then when you do find them, there's such an unregulated market, you kind of have to just pay whatever the box is. Like realistically, they're literally so difficult to find. Like there's been instances where I've had some people ask me for quotes on certain boxes. Like I'm talking like Dragon, like EX Dragon boxes, right? And you go on eBay, you go on other places and you're like, all right, what's the sale for this item? There is none. There's no sales for this item in years, right? So you kind of have to go to places like Instagram. You kind of have to know people that could hook you up with certain people. And then even then it's like, there's not really much of a haggling because there's just not a lot of motivation because they know they're going to find the right buyer on an item that is just difficult to find because there's just no sales out there for them.
Yeah. The greatest like weakness in Pokemon investing is like compared to like a stock market is the click one button liquidity. But no one talks about the greatest strength is that these are not just, tickers and numbers on a screen like a stock with absolutely zero attachment for anybody. These have attachment. People actually love this stuff. It's nostalgia. And so like having a box like that, like owning something like that, it's not always just for, is it going to produce the absolute best return, right? It's, I get to own something I truly, really love and enjoy. And it also appreciated in value. Did Lost Origin perform better? Sure. Did Paldea perform better? Sure. But is it worth more than when I bought it? Did I get to enjoy it for all the time I owned it? Yeah. So that could still be worth it for you.
Yeah. It's just a matter of obviously what are your motivations, right? Like, is your motivation, I want to own an item that I will love and cherish as part of my collection? Or do I want to own an item because it's making me the most money I think is possible for that specific product?
And then sometimes you get lucky and it does both.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It'll be curious to see what vintage is going to look like, obviously, over the next, I don't know, couple years, realistically, because although it's not seen an insane like level of scarcity, you're still like wondering at what point does a lot of the WotC boxes, like I'm talking like jungle, fossil, base set, start to really dry up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think it's vintage, dude. I think it's just price point. You know, I think X, Y, and Sun and Moon are going to start having the same issue here soon. I just think there's certain price points that price people out. Like people legitimately just cannot afford them. And then it's also the people that can afford them, like you or me. We just choose not to, right? It's like, I don't want to drop $10,000 on a single box, right? I want to put my $10,000 elsewhere. And so it's like you get into this weird spot where it's like there's only a certain amount of people that actually can afford these items, and the ones that can aren't even sure they want to afford those items. And I think that's where it becomes tricky.
Yeah.
So I think with vintage, it's always going to be you have to be very picky with what you want, because there's only so much demand that is going towards vintage. There's only so many people that can afford the vintage. And so you really want to be picky off the like the major things that people are always going to want. When you start getting too deep into the weeds in the vintage and mid eras, that's where I think you can get caught.
Yeah. I mean, at least for myself, I look at it and I say like, if I'm going to spend this much money on an item that I want to be a part of my collection, I have to have so much expendable income to where it doesn't feel like it's hurting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because realistically, like I say, okay, what else could I use this money for? Right?
100%. Yeah. Like
it's just going to sit.
If I'm like sitting there retired and I have like, you know, $50,000 a month of passive income or something, it doesn't hurt at all. Right. But when you have like plans for like every dollar and you're trying to, like, you get ahead with investing, and, you know, it's like, it's just so hard to take money off the table and put it into something that you don't really believe in, like for like, you know, financial terms, but you just want. I use it. Honestly, it reminds me a lot. I always talk about like having a sports car. It's like, would I like to drive around in a Lamborghini? Sure. Do I want to go have a Lamborghini payment and taxes every month? How far is that going to set me back every month to complete, like, get into where I want to be? Quite a bit. I don't think I really want a Lamborghini. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how a lot of this Pokemon stuff. It's like, would I like to go collect all this stuff? Absolutely. But like, is it really getting me further ahead, or is it just because I want to put something on a shelf and enjoy it? Right.
Yeah. No, yeah, 100%.
It's hard.
So we'll start taking questions here in just a couple seconds. Make sure, guys, leave a like, comment down below, subscribe, really helps the channel. And then, as always, in all caps, questions, say question in all caps followed by what your question is. If you have a question, you'll kind of see a lot of people in the chat do it. Just kind of copy the format. If it doesn't say caption or question, I'm not going to see it.
Oh no, you're skipping them?
Dude, I'm skipping them, man. You got to have questions.
Well, you better take the super chats first.
Gotta always take the super chats first, gentlemen. All right, cool. We'll start off with the first super chat, which is the Chef 93. Thank you so much, Chef. Think an ES sealed case of 2,500 per box is worth the premium over loose boxes at 2,000 to 2,200. Typically haven't cared about premiums, but I don't know. So here's the thing. I don't know where you're finding the $2,000 to $2,200 a box, because last time I checked, at least on TCG Player, you might be talking secondary market here. That is how much it was for a loose box. It was 2,500. So, and I remember we were talking about this. I don't know if it was last stream or the stream prior, but we were going over some listings on eBay showing that for some weird reason, more recently, there has been an adjustment on the premiums that you're getting for some of these items. So I'm just saying, if you're going to get a premium on a sealed case, now might be the time to do so. I do see the evolving box has gone down a little bit, though. It is 2,300 now, so it's dropped a couple $100.
Yeah, and on eBay, they are ending between 2,000 to 2,200 at auction. I think there are some people that buy it now is around 22 or 23.
So prices have then been dipping for ES, it looks like.
Yeah, they're down a good 10%, or maybe even a little more. But here's the thing, right? If you're going to buy the case of the premium, but you're also going to sell it at a premium. Whereas you're going to buy the boxes at a discount, but you're also going to sell them at a discount. Like if you sell 6 boxes, you're going to get less than a sealed case. So it's kind of, you know, apples to apples. The only thing I would say is if I didn't already own a case, I may go for the loose boxes just because they're already being in the 2000s. It seems like the case is already going to be pricing a lot of people out, and it's going to be harder to move the case. You're going to have the right buyer for it in the future, where a lot more people are going to kind of buck up and buy the boxes, right? Let's say the boxes go to $5,000. It's going to be much easier to find a buyer of a box at $5,000 than it is to find a buyer of a case at like 30 to 40 grand. So, I mean, I like cases. If you can get cases, especially in the beginning, especially right now, I think Mega Evolution cases are cheaper than 6 Mega Evolutions boxes, at least for the box topper version. So like if you can get a case at even a discount or the same price as boxes, or even pay maybe like a 5% premium, I'm always about getting the case. Once there's already a premium, I typically like to go to the loose boxes, especially if they're minty. I wouldn't be buying any boxes that have like loose wrap or that like aren't, because I mean, once you get the higher value boxes, people really get picky about their boxes. But yeah, as long as you're getting good shape boxes, I have no problem buying loose ones.
Yeah, no, I mean, typically you're going to see that with new sets where the sealed case isn't going to hold a premium and will sometimes be cheaper than the loose. So that makes sense. But yeah, I think that for me personally, if we're watching the spread kind of continue, because when we first looked at this a week or two ago, it was the same. So it looks like that the premium has held. Well, it's held since we last saw it, right? But obviously it's down overall. But you're starting to see that spread happen, right? Whereas before, last 2 weeks ago or a week ago, you had 2,500 per box for loose, 2,500 per box for a sealed case, whereas before it was like 3,000 a box for a sealed case. So it's now matched it, and then the sealed has kind of started to, or the loose has started to drop, kind of like what you see with raw and PSA 9s. Sometimes there's instances in which they'll match up and they'll be exactly the same price, and then you're like, all right, well, I guess now there's a spread between the difference of a 9 versus a raw, because for some people they just want the card graded, right? So you're kind of seeing a similar effect occur at the moment. But I think if it's me personally, I think if you can go for the case and you can find one that is at that price, but isn't at exactly 25, like you even find one that's closer to 24, I would say probably go with it that way. But yeah, I'd agree and say probably that you're going to want to go more the loose route at that point, just because, like, I don't know. I just like I definitely think premiums are on sealed good, but they're so flimsy because realistically it's a piece of cardboard.
Hey, and stop tape.
Yeah, and stop tape. Dude, you know how often that like has always scared me? Like I've always wanted to own a vintage case of like Diamond and Pearl era booster boxes, but it scares the crap out of me because realistically, I could be totally fooled without knowing. Like I feel more secure in seeing a loose box than a sealed case because I actually get to see what the product is. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't know. That's just kind of where I am. So I'm kind of similar to Alex in that way. All right. Next question, Alex.
let's do it.
All right, next question. Shout out to KCM Collectibles. Thank you so much for the $10. Question: how important is cash flow for an LGS Eli and then an online business? Alex, struggling between high cash flow, low margin versus low cash flow, high margin. Want to know your thoughts on how you guys do it.
I am like a cash flow king. Like I am very pro moving products. I rarely sit on anything. I mean, like the one thing I would say that like I do pretty well, I optimize things like so well with my business. I really don't sit on a lot of dead inventory if things aren't selling. I find ways to blow them out, you know, whatever I have to do, run events, run sales, sell them on different platforms, make deals with people to get products that actually do sell. So I'm always going to be on the side of high volume, lower margins. Now, you can always have a small amount of things with the high margins and the low turnaround. I would just, if you're going to go that route, I would make them a small percentage of your business. but you want as much. If you're running a business, you want the cash flowing. Investing is a different story, right? If you're running a business, you want the products moving in and out, in and out, in and out. In fact, the person that I sold my slabs to, I was talking with them on their business model. They literally are just business to business. Customer to business. They literally set up at shows. They try to take in $500,000 to $1 million in slabs a show. They immediately have buyers already set up for them, whether they be like streamers or repackers or whatever, that they immediately sell to like right away. And they make very small margins. But if you're able to do $500,000 to $1 million with small margins, that's a lot better than somebody who's maybe selling 10 or 20 grand, but they have huge margins, right? And it's kind of like the Walmart model compared to your local grocery store. You go to your grocery store, they're selling things a little bit more expensive than Walmart, but Walmart sells 100 times more than they do. Walmart's more successful. So I'm always a fan of high volume, lower margin.
I mean, you kind of like describe my business in a nutshell, but just going about it a different way, right? Like I'm trying to make money off of obviously the membership, but through that, having a high amount of sales volume through the program helps it to where we can consistently keep the value of the program afloat, right? Which it doesn't feel as much that way with discounts as it did before, because obviously a lot of distros are trying to claw them back. But being able to get booster boxes and other product for still cheaper than where you might find elsewhere is extremely valuable for a lot of people, right? And the money is not being made off of the sale itself and high margin. It's made off the fact that you're trying to, like you said, line up a specific sale that's already being made, right? So when I get allocation for product, it's already been sold to people in the program, right? It's the exact same kind of philosophy to that regard. And it makes it a lot easier from a marketing perspective because you already are fulfilling a need without having to go out and search for someone that's going to buy it. To answer your question, though, from my own perspective, it's definitely, I'll give it, I'll give both perspectives. And what I mean by that is because I still have the wholesale program, right? And so that is very much an online business, right? And then I'll tell you about like the game store itself. Having liquidity in both is tremendously important. Like I've been learning more recently with the wholesale program, and I was talking to Alex about it. We've been having a lot of liquidity issues with payments. And now sometimes that comes down to people taking forever to make payment. Sometimes that comes down to people not making payments when they should be. And it comes to a point where it's causing such a like stranglehold on the program that I have to boot them from the program altogether and then just find a place for the product, right? Which you wouldn't think for products that are selling at 2 to 3x what you're buying them for. But I digress here. And so like I recently had to transfer $70,000 of funds from the store, which was our cash flow, to then pay for product within the program because people were either late on payments or they weren't making payments on time for older stuff. And it was causing like delinquency to, trigger within our own, policy within the program. And so it's not great if you don't have a ton of money. Like realistically, if you didn't have a cash flow set off to the side, like for what my business is, we'd be getting destroyed right now. And it sucks because it causes delays on things. But at the end of the day, like you need to have that cash reserve. You need to have that cash flow constantly churning. You can't just be sitting on stuff or else you're going to literally just get destroyed.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like playing Scrabble and someone like sitting there on like with like the Q and the Z and the X like so long, and they're just waiting for like this giant word they're gonna get, and they're gonna get like a triple letter and a double word, and they're gonna get like 100-point word, and the whole time they're just sitting there passing, like waiting, taking new letters, waiting, and the whole time you're just like making small words like 10 different times. And then they finally get that big word, and you're just like, yeah, I'm still ahead of you. I'm still winning. And I feel like that's kind of how this is. It's like if you're just consistently churning and burning, making sale after sale after sale, small margins, you're still going to outproduce the guy that makes a few of the big margin sales because they just can't catch up because you're constantly churning and burning the money.
Yeah. I mean, it's important, man, because cash flow, I mean, the reason why cash flow is important is because you have expenses. Like you have to constantly, you can't just be sitting on stuff. Like it's one thing if you have investments that you're setting off to the side, but for me personally, I'm not going to say to myself, oh crap, like, I have a big upcoming expense that I have to pay and I don't have the funds for it. Let me just sell off my sealed product. Like that sucks. Like I don't want to have to do that. If it's specifically like a Lost Origin booster, it's like, no, I have product on the shelf. Let me try and move it as much as I can so that I'm constantly cash flowing and then able to have that flexibility to use the liquidity for things, right? Because that's it at the end of the day. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't like having money in cash because I feel like I'm losing money by it not making me profit. But like, it's wise in business to have money for another good example, right? Another good example. Now we're talking the LGS side, right? I talked about the online portion of it and why it's important to have cash flow. And the other aspect of it. Oh, one thing I will say too. Another thing that also on the wholesale side that is unpredictable is sometimes distros will literally come out of nowhere and say, hey, we've got product available. And we'll be like, where was the notice? And they're like, oh yeah, we need payment right now, this very instant. Do you have it? And you're like, you're asking me for $100,000 and you gave me a 2-day notice. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's at no fault of anyone's other than the fact that you just get told something last second. But I digress. Going to the LGS side, a perfect example, our shop just got robbed recently, right? That sucks. We had a break in. I can't remember if I've talked about it on stream, but it was a very traumatizing experience. And because of that, I needed cash flow for a multitude of reasons, right? Replacing the inventory that was stolen, getting a new glass front door, getting more improved security cameras, security sensors, a security gate. So like all in all, I probably spent well over 20 grand just off of that incident, which sucks as a business having to do that kind of stuff. But like, that's where, once again, cash flow is super important because it all comes down to basically, you always want to be making money. It's very important. But at the end of the day, like, don't just be sitting on product just because you want to maximize your capital on your sales, because instances in which stuff like that could occur where you need money, it will come up. And that's where it's going to hurt a lot more, where you're scrambling to find ways to get access to product. And then you might have to sell it for less than what you originally would have wanted to because you're in a tight pinch, versus you've been cash flowing at just a price that's making things move. And then from there, if a situation like that happens, you're more prepared and it doesn't hurt you as bad.
And guys, that's like a sensationalized like belief too, like with online gurus like Grant Cardone or other guys, all that, like, never hold cash, cash is trash, have all your money always invested, all that stuff. It's nonsense, right? Your money doesn't get eaten to inflation in a matter of a few months, right? It's not how it works. And the truth is, everyone holds cash. Businesses hold cash. Warren Buffett, sits on cash. Like, everyone holds cash at some point when they see that they think opportunities are going to arise. And so even when you're investing, it always pays to have some cash on the sidelines, especially in business. You have to have cash. Like Eli was talking about, what if people reach out to you or walk in with collections? There's always different reasons to have cash on the sidelines to take advantage of deals. Like Eli just said, his distributor, right, reached out to him with all this. What if somebody's distributor reached out to him with that? They don't have the money. They need to get the money. They call you up. They call me up and say, Alex, I need the money. I'm trying to liquidate some stuff. And I say, I can't pay more than this amount. They say, well, I need it now. Can you transfer it now? If you can give it to me now, I can give you this at 75%. Okay. Transfer the money, get product at 75%. Now I can make a good margin just because I had the cash available and other people didn't. So yeah, I don't think it's ever a bad idea to have some cash laying around. Inflation doesn't work like that. Inflation doesn't eat your money in 3 months. It's like, I just think it's hyperbolic to feel that you should never have cash in the bank.
Yeah, no, 1000%. All right, moving on to our first non-super chat question. Is the Prismatic Premium Figure Collection the best collection box we've had in a long time and better long-term than ETB? 11 versus 9 packs and ETB's 2 beautiful promos, small for storage too.
What do you think?
That's a great question. I think that for me, it's just going to come down to price point at the end of the day, if I'm being 100% honest.
Yep.
Like, that's just kind of it.
put it this way, if I've said the same thing about every collection box, and people they refuse to see like the the subtle differences in what I say. I don't like collection boxes for investing. However, it's a big but here. If the packs inside are around the same price as loose packs, I love it. That's why I bought all kind of poster collections from Prismatic. Somebody reached out with a deal. It was less than what the regular sealed loose packs were going for. It made sense. I get a sealed item, I get promos, I get all this other stuff for less than what loose packs cost. And so yeah, if the price per pack is right, makes perfect sense. If it's, you know, marked up and everything and it's more, then I don't like it as much. I don't want to pay a premium for a collection box.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So I would pay what loose pack price is, what like, and then plus what the promos are going for or whatever. But like, I'm not paying a premium for the sealed box. Like it doesn't make sense for collection boxes.
Yeah. I mean, don't have to overcomplicate it. All right. Next question. Alex, I hear you and I agree it's probably not close to crashing right now, but don't most markets crash in any space happen shortly after everyone is euphoric?
I don't know. I mean, I've heard the stock market's been euphoric for years now. And I think, you know, me and Eli, we brought up that market cycle chart not too long ago.
Yeah.
And I think people have a hard time pointing to where we ever are on the chart. And I think, you know, hindsight's 2020. So whenever we do have a downturn, people come out of the woodwork and say, I told you so. The problem is a lot of the same people saying, I told you so right now, because things are down like 10 or 20%, are the same people telling people not to buy 6 months, 8 months, 10 months ago. And if you go look at all these products 6, 8, 10 months ago, you're likely up on all of them substantially. But no one wants to talk about that. And so I just think trying to point to specific times on, you know, what is, you know, define euphoric, define the exact right time to buy, exact right time to sell. I just think always, you know, letting things run long term, always dollar cost averaging is always going to be the way than trying to time a specific time in the market. But hey, if you really feel that way, you got to vote with your dollars, right? Sell out, don't buy, wait for this big downturn to happen and buy back in. I just know myself, I would rather be, I know from experience in all markets, I've always done better being invested than having money on the sidelines waiting for the perfect time.
I mean, I feel like the biggest problem is when we just look at cycles themselves. Yes, I can agree with you that a lot of times market crashes will occur right after euphoric, or in most instances they do. I guess the question is, how long can euphoric last for? Because realistically, like, I remember going back to like 2016, people were talking about housing prices and how they had become more expensive and how unaffordable housing was becoming, and that it's not going to get worse. A crash is going to come soon. Mm-hmm. It's 2025. It's been almost a decade since then. Prices are still at all-time highs for homes across the board. Like, you know, obviously, if you look in certain areas of the country, you can always pinpoint to places that have taken corrections. But if we just take the, you know, median average price of a home in the United States, it's across the board more expensive. So it's like we can't make these predictions. And I think the biggest problem and or fallacy people get into is, yes, crashes are great, but also at the exact same time, like, if an item went up 400, 500, 600%, and you're like, look, I bought the dip, it dropped 40, but it's like, was it actually cheaper for you to buy the dip, or was it cheaper for you to buy it when it was only at 100% up? You know what I mean? Because if it, like, to put it into like numbers, if you had an item that was going for $100, right, and it jumps up to 200, does it make more sense for you to pick it up at 200, or does it make more sense for you to have picked it up when it went all the way up to 1,000 but then dropped 40%? Like, realistically speaking, like, yeah, the crash happened, but you could have still gotten it significantly cheaper before the crash ever occurred, because the price ran up was so high that the retracement wouldn't have really mattered too much to you. So like, you have to think about that as well.
At the end of the day too, you know, Pokeball cards, look, man, we're just two guys. Like, me and Eli, just two people that started making YouTube videos. Now Eli is a card shop owner. I do streams. Like, no one cared at all what we thought, you know, 2-3 years ago. and no one cared at all, you know, before that, before I even had a YouTube channel. I was just like on online forums or in comment sections. No one gave a crap, right? But I was just always making plays on what I felt, and Eli was doing the same thing, making plays on his analysis, what he thought, and it's been successful, right? And so that's always what I'm going to do. I'm going to make plays based on what I feel. I'm going to give, you know, I'm going to make content based on how I feel. I'm going to give responses based on what I believe. Doesn't mean it's always going to be right, and it doesn't mean you got to follow it. You may think I am completely wrong and do the exact opposite. I mean, right now in the stock market, you have people like, you know, Michael Burry, the big short investor, coming out and shorting things like Nvidia and Palantir. And then you have other giant investors betting against him, saying, you know, I'm buying more Palantir and more Nvidia. And, you know, you have Warren Buffett buying things that other people are short selling. It's like, it's the constant struggle. It doesn't mean either side is dumb or knows more, or knows less. It's just that's what they believe based on their analysis. And so all I am ever giving is my own analysis on what I see. Could it be wrong? Could it be right? Either way, but that I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and we'll see where it all ends up. And Eli's doing the same thing.
Yeah, 1000%. All right. Next question, Alex. How many shady looking PSA agents did you see roaming around the convention, sucking up slabs like Harry Potter to the mentors? And Eric told me that that's something to be afraid of.
Definitely a thing. It is real. A couple of the vendors I talked to did get bought out. They were only at this show, and apparently people told me at the last show before this Collecticon, they had shrunk it down to only buying slabs that were $200 or less in value. And they're going around. They're you know, using, I believe they use Card Ladder, if I'm not mistaken. They'll look up the Card Ladder prices. They'll give you they'll take the average of the recent sales. They'll give you between 90, 95%, and they'll take every single slab you have under $200 at that valuation. And they'll pay you out right then and there and take them all. And there were a couple vendors I talked to that did sell out basically all the slabs they had under $200 to these people that were walking around buying. I believe I forget if it was PSA or GameStop, but it's one of the two. I think they're working in tandem on this. I've even heard, again, another rumor, I don't have this confirmed. I've heard that the slabs PSA actually buys from you, like the offers they give you on your grades. When you get your grades from PSA, they'll give you a bunch of offers. I believe even those they offload to another source, I guess GameStop or someone else, and they just make a small percentage in the transaction. If you guys, the deeper you get in this hobby, you're going to realize everything is middlemaning. Everything. All the big players are just moving product from one place to another, and they're taking a very small cut for it, and they're just doing it millions of times. And so, but yes, that is the thing. They are walking around buying slabs.
I mean, just think how much money credit card companies make off of just percentages, small
That's
percentages.
That's it.
Yeah, who cares about their like cash back when they're making so much? Like if they're going to charge someone 3% and you're getting 2% cash back, that 1% that they get, $100+ million worth, like that's it's a lot of money that they're making. You know, I mean, it's not even 100. I mean, it's so much money they're doing in these transactions. But yeah, no, I mean, I agree with what Alex said. We talked about this as well with the Pokemon, you know, mystery slabs that, you know, the power packs they've been doing with GameStop. Like they're buying this product up for a reason and everyone's getting a cut.
Well, here, let me throw something else at you guys. These slabs, all right, this is going to get even like, not even like conspiratorial, but likely how it's going to be. A lot of these slabs, they'll never see the light of day again. They're never going to hit the market. And I'll tell you why. Places like Fanatics and GameStop they have the power packs. Fanatics has whatever they call their packs, right? And so what happens is people are buying the mystery pack, they're getting their slab, and if it's not a better value than what they paid, they're likely just going to resell it at 90%. It's going to go back. They're going to try again and play the game, right? Meaning they're never actually going to have their slab shipped to them. They're just going to take the 90% buyback. So these companies are going to consistently have people buying these cards, paying them 90% to take it back, and they're just going to all stay within their vault, and it's just going to keep being recycled through their power packs. And the only slabs that may ever get sent are going to be the high-end ones where they actually win, the 5% of people that actually win, but then they might not even take it. They may just take the payout profit. It's just going to be this endless cycle of GameStop and Fanatics and these companies holding these massive amounts of slabs, throwing them in power packs, but never actually getting shipped to anybody. So just think about that for a second. There's going to be very few slabs on the market because all these companies are going to own them all.
Which is crazy because, you know, the slabs will presumably be backed by one that they actually physically own, right?
Well, yeah, you can always get it shipped to you. So that's how these power packs work is you can, once you pay the $1,000 and you get your $500 slab, you can say buy back for 90%, or you can say ship to me. But nobody ships the losers. They just say 90%, I'm going to try again. And a lot of people don't even ship the winners. They'll get a $2,000 slab. They'll say, oh, I'll take the profit. I'll take the payout.
Right.
And they take the payout and then they keep that slab too. And that's going to be like a real reality here going forward.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Will we ever see a business like crypto be built where you can buy $5 worth of Evo Skies booster packs and have a portfolio that way?
Eventually, I think.
Oh, five. I said booster box. That's what I meant to say.
I think eventually.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
I mean, that's how you guys know that's how every ETF works, right? Like, well, I guess not every ETF. I guess that some are. Do ETFs all own the underlying asset, or do some just kind of go off of the market? I'm not 100% sure how that works.
I'm not an expert in ETFs, so I'm not certain.
But yeah, it'd be like an ETF owning a certain amount of gold or crypto, and then you're buying into that, and it's going to trade with how the crypto or whatever that asset's market goes, and that's how it's going to. But yeah, I mean, realistically, if you could own Rudy, if Rudy could, ETF his entire fund, and it's going to trade off how the market does on his fund. The issue with it is having agreed upon market price. That's the hard part, right? Like Collector app, obviously has a price they take, or you go to these shows and people they'll use alt or card ladder or whatever, and they'll come up with prices. But I think that's the hardest part is not having a centralized, kind of market. It makes it really hard to ever have like a traditional trading range, right? Or a traditional like market price. You can value it off of day to day on how your investment's performing. I think that's the biggest barrier to ever having an ETF right now.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely something you're going to see in the future. I mean, it just makes sense, right? People are going to want to own something that they feel like they can invest in, and it's fun to do.
Well, I think Kevin O'Leary's probably closest to it. I think he's going to put together that O'Leary fund or whatever he calls it, and he's going to have all those high-end sports cards. And I think he did say he wants to tokenize it. So whatever that looks like, I mean, I think it's eventually going to be a thing sooner than later here soon.
The tokenization of trading cards is going to be insane.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, they're going to pull it off.
Yeah. In your opinion, when do you think Sword and Shield slabs will have another leg up? I can see it in about I can see them stagnating 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, they could. If I could time the market every 6 to 12 months, I'd be so rich right now. I can't tell you 6 to 12 months. It's hard.
I don't have a crystal ball.
If you want what I have done, I have sold off my slabs. Alex sold his slabs. So that's what I did with mine.
Whoa. What is the typical allocation for a small, mid, and big LGS per distributor? I mean, I don't want to include us because I don't know of really any LGS that is at the same size we are. But I would argue that for small, they're usually getting around 100 booster boxes. For medium, they're usually getting around 400 booster boxes. And then for large, they're usually getting right around 800 booster boxes. Typically, like that's kind of the ranges I see from a lot of the stores that I've talked to. So I know plenty of stores that are getting right around 20 cases, and I know very few stores that are getting over 1,000 booster boxes. And most of the like big stores that I know where you look at them and you're like, wow, they're massive. They must have a ton of product. And they're getting like around 800. Like they're not really getting more than a pallet at most.
Yeah, I just happen to live around giant card shops.
Do they tell you what their allocations are?
No, but I mean, just judging from some of the stuff I bought, like, I mean, because they don't just sell to me, they sell to other, other resellers too. And like recently I've been getting like a, good amount of product, like, some of the recent collection box releases I've gotten like, 200 to 400 boxes each. And so I'm just one person. So I know they're getting pretty decent sized allocations. And then like obviously Forge and Fire, I mean, they're massive. They get stupid allocations.
Yeah, but I feel like it's different to say like large versus like the top 1% of stores.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds right to me. Or, you know, small can get like one box.
Yeah. Alex is crushing it right now, guys. He's getting massive allocations.
I'm the only person that can literally get the absolute smallest amount you could possibly get, and at the same time get yelled at for scalping my distributed boxes.
You're just the worst, Alex. I think everyone
You know what's nice though? It makes it really easy because I have an easy out. I can be like, guys, I put my entire allocation on my shelf and I'm not selling it. I just get my one display box and put it up there, and there we go. I didn't scalp it.
When MSRP do you think Pokemon should go up to? 180, $5 a pack, or 200, $5.50 a pack, possibly higher? So what is is it 162.50 right now?
It's 160. It's $4.50 a pack.
It's 160, 164.
Yeah. So I believe it's what, $4.49 a pack?
So
yeah, $4.49 a pack.
It used to be 144. Here, give me a second. So
I think 197.64.
We saw an 11% increase.
In my opinion, I think 197.64 sounds good. That's $5.49 a pack. I think for 2025, when you look at the inflation of everything, if you look at what a Pokemon card pack costs in 99 and what like a Big Mac costs in 99 compared to now, I think $5.50 a pack is so reasonable. It's not even funny.
Hold on one second.
That's my take.
I think they're going to be 180.
So $5, $4.99 a pack.
Yeah, I think 180 makes sense. The only reason why I say that is if we're just talking percentages, there was about a 10.9%, 10.91% jump from 144 to what they're at currently. And if you do the jump up in the exact same percentage, it would be 179.25. So it just makes sense for it to be at 180. That just is what makes the most sense. I could be wrong if they could do a bigger.
I actually agree with that.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense.
And I think the market could take $5.50 a pack, but yeah, I think actually you're right.
I think it's a clean number too. Like realistically, if you do that, like $5 a pack is not that crazy when you really think about it.
It's not even close to how much everything else in life has went up in the past 30 years. I mean, it's not even like relatively close.
Yeah.
I think it's more than reasonable. I think anyone thinking that's not reasonable is out of their mind.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it too, like most distros, like I know some distros, right? They went from $82 a box to like $95 a box, right? So if we're just saying that those same distros, if they were to do the same kind of percentage leg jump up, that would be 82.95 minus 1. That was about a 13.6% jump. So if you were to say 95 times 1.136, that means boxes would be around $108 is where they would jump to. Which if you're paying 108, that's like kind of your distro cost, but MSRP is 180. Like you're probably going to start seeing a new floor of prices if hypothetically a market correction came of like 125, 130, which I still think is extremely reasonable. Like realistically, I think that if we're talking a perfect world, that I like those numbers if we got there, but that's my mind. So I think 200 is too much. I think the increments they're doing it in is appropriate. And you also have to think the time frames here too. Like we had these price increases occur in 2023. So It's been a little over 2.5 to 3 years now, almost. So if you say to yourself that they increase MSRP here, like in the next 6 months to a year, and it's only another 10%, like realistically, that doesn't seem crazy, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you're 100. I was just answering off the top of my head, but after you did all that math, it makes perfect sense. It would be that same percentage rise. So I think you're right there. And I think the only 2 times it even makes sense to do it would either be the first set after the new year or the new era.
Yeah, new era is what makes most sense.
It'll probably be after Mega Evolutions, if not January.
Do we know how many Mega sets there's going to be?
I think 4 and 2 specialty is what I heard.
So 6 in total?
Which would make sense.
Yeah, so if we do that, we obviously are in a second one. So we've got 4 more sets to go. They're pushing out sets every 2 to 3 months. 4 more to go. We got another year.
This
so
next
Mega
one could be a specialty.
Yeah, so we're going to have probably it'll be Q1 of 2027 then is when we'll probably see the new era. Man, can you imagine if we go through the same bull market cycle for another full year?
Well, here's what I want to question. Like, think about this. Is this planned that the specialty set comes out in January? Or was that supposed to be a holiday set and everything got pushed back? I don't know. It's weird, right?
That is weird.
It's weird to release that specialty set after the holidays.
Here's something interesting to think about, right? We're starting to talk hypotheticals now just for fun. Obviously, Sword and Shield era, it had a back half of sets that people didn't like, right? Astral Radiance, Pokemon Go, Silver Tempest.
Hey, no.
Hey, don't talk about my Pokemon Go. But anyway, like there were sets that people didn't like. Like obviously prices are great now, but if you were there, you know how people felt about them, right? My question is, do we see a world in which some of the new megas that were introduced in the Pokemon ZA end up being a part of a set and it is kind of like the Astral Radiance equivalence? And I say Astral Radiance because a lot of the reason why people didn't like Astral Radiance was because they didn't like the forms of the Dialga Palkia for Arceus. And other than that, like you had a Machamp that people didn't really care for at the time. I mean, it eventually popped off, but a lot of the main like alt arts people didn't really care about, right? You also had a was it a Sneasel, Galarian Sneasel? Is that what it was? Or not Galarian, Hisuian Sneasel, right? So it was all based around Arceus and the Hisuian region. Like that was the premise of the set. Like the subset obviously had the Starmie and the Garchomp, which were sick, but those cards were not worth what they are now. They were worth significantly less. So at what point do you think we get a set
Next set.
Is it going to be next set that it's going to include that?
Dude, if it's going to be that Dragonite, I'm just going to tell you right now. Dragon Majesty. The Dragonite couldn't carry the set. The full art Dragonite and Evolutions, not one of the more chased after cards. Like, I don't think Dragonite can carry a set.
But you saw there's a Gengar also as well, right?
There's a Gengar now?
Yes, there is a Gengar. That's what makes it difficult for me. I mean, as far as the pictures I've been seeing, I'm pretty certain it's confirmed now there's a Gengar.
Right,
so here's
that. Going to the moon. To the moon.
Yeah, so here's my thing. I guess my concern is, or I don't know if it's a concern, when are we going to get a set that's going to have like Mega Starmie, Mega Frostlass, Mega Emboar, make like a lot of the newer megas of the less popular characters? You know what I mean? Like, when are we going to get that set? Because here's the deal. Like, Mega Gengar isn't a new mega, right? Like, obviously, I'm not upset that they're making a Mega Gengar, but also at the same time, we know that it's going to be popular, right? But if we have some of the more
Gengar is like top S class. I mean,
yeah. So if we're having sets coming out with a bunch of new megas, when are we going to have that mega set that's going to potentially have a bunch of the new megas that people don't really care about, and it ends up tanking it? Like, I don't think a Mega Skarmory is going to carry a set. You know what I mean?
What if Pokemon just finally figured out the code? They finally got the right people in charge, and we're like, we're no longer going to release sets without
big hitter megas, big hitter stuff. I mean, it's
possible. What if we just don't get a cheap set?
It's always possible. I mean, legit, they understand the code.
I don't know.
I mean, it's a trust in the market at this point. Like, it is literally the market is saying, especially for scalpers, I can go to my local Walmart, I can go to my local Target, and I can consistently go pick up product for significantly cheap and always make money off of it. Like, that's just kind of where we are. Like, that's literally a thought process that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
And some people, instead of having like jobs, or maybe they do have jobs and they do it on the side, they will straight up spend all day going to certain locations, whether that be, you know, the Pokemon vending machines, whether they be Costco's, whether they be other big box retailers, and they will just make several $100s off of the profits of them scalping places. So people are making jobs off of scalping.
Do you want me to give you an example that might scare people?
Okay, let's go for it.
So remember when Gary Vee was getting big?
Yes.
And he was all about the garage sales.
Garage sales, garage snails.
And then that was, you know, kind of the reseller revolution. Everyone was doing Amazon FBA, and then, like, you know, just reselling in
Drop
general.
shipping.
Well, has Goodwill ever came down in price? All the Goodwill, Salvation Army, all those places, all their resale products are now sky high, way higher than they ever were, because all the resellers jumped on board, and that's what they did all day. They went around all the different Goodwills and garage sales and all these places and resold on eBay. And it just created a higher market forever. I mean, I think people need to look into that and say, this could be real in Pokemon. They could just create a higher market for eternity. As long as there are end buyers for this stuff, you don't have to agree with the end buyers. You don't have to participate in the buying. There are buyers out there for this stuff. Otherwise, the reselling wouldn't work. And as long as those buyers are still there and they still have money in their pockets to spend, it's going to keep going into eternity. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Goodwill stuff never came back down. People never stopped doing that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me, man. I will say that I feel like the only difference is obviously this is a company that regulates a specific IP. And so,
yeah,
I guess the question is, how much faith do you have that Pokemon cares about true scarcity of products? Like, legitimately, because if you look at like the price increase of the Switch 2, you can get mad at all you want, which I will say most people weren't mad at the Switch 2 increase. It was the Switch 2 games is what people were most upset about. But let's just go back to the Switch 2 increase. How hard is it right now, Alex, for you to get a Switch 2?
I haven't tried. I don't know.
You haven't tried. You can get one right now. You can go get one right now for MSRP because they made so many Switch 2s.
Okay.
And so people are saying to themselves, okay, well, I can get this new console. Yes, it's more expensive, but I'm not going to have to sit out and try and get it at MSRP where it's going to be scalped. People like that, right? Like, if you're a part of the people that wanted an Xbox Series X or a PlayStation 5 during COVID, like, that was an experience just to try and go get one because people were scalping it like crazy, right? So Pokemon, at least they've shown us that, yes, they're greedy and they like making more money. I mean, they're a business, right? They want to make more money. They obviously are trying to keep that number going up. But they've at least shown that they're doing it while also addressing the supply issue. So at least through what we've seen through other IPs or other, you know, methods of generated revenue like consoles, you could see that situation where with Pokemon, they do increase the price of specific stuff. And then we'll see obviously what that stuff turns into in terms of supply. Because you have to think as well that if they can make more money off of raising prices and printing more, why wouldn't they? Right? Yeah. Like, it just makes sense. Like, they want to make more money. How are they going to do that? They're going to print more and they're going to charge more for it. So we have no clue what their printing capacity is currently. We have no clue what the expansion timeline is for that. If they picked up a new, you know, printing facility and it takes 6 months to a year for them to actually be able to get stuff rolling, we have no clue. We're speculating here. But as a business, I can say one thing's for certain. They want to make more money. How are they going to do it? It's those two ways, right? So it's coming. It's just when.
It's again, I really think it's the online community, dude. I really do. I think that's why there's such a disconnect. the online community is so much more like price averse than like the overall hobby, and that's why the stuff still sells. And here's what it comes down to, right? It'd be like complaining that you're paying more for your food on DoorDash. It's just like I was able to hop on an app and I ordered what I wanted, and some guy brought it right to my house, and I had to pay more, right? Some people are eventually going to stop like these principled stands, and they're going to be like, yeah, MSRP is whatever, $60 in ETB, but I can just buy it on eBay. I don't have to drive around to all these stores, waste all my time and gas and energy, whatever. I'm just going to order for $79.99 on eBay or on Amazon. Like, that's what it's going to get to eventually, where it doesn't even have to get all the way to MSRP. If things even get close, people are going to stop and just be like, I don't care. I'm just going to buy it. I don't feel like driving around a million stores. I don't want to wait in online queues. I just want to log on and click add to cart.
I mean, it's convenience, man. That's what a lot of people are paying for.
For sure.
Right now.
We all pay for it. We all pay for convenience in some way, shape, or form at some point in our lives. I think people are, it's much more of this online community. And I talked about this in my video today. It's like, it's the same group of people, whether it be, I don't even know how many people. I said somewhere between 10 to 50,000 people. I think it's probably pretty accurate. It's the same 10 to 50,000 people that go to every different video from all the different creators and all the different spaces, whether it be, you know, the market space, the drama space, the investing space, the business space on Pokemon. And they argue and bicker about the same things over and over. We're pro high prices in investing and collecting. We're against it. We think this is bad for the hobby. It's terrible. Everything's going to go to zero. And it's just like this constant battle. And then it works its way onto Discords. Then it works its way onto Reddits. And it's just the same people just battling and getting mad about the same things over and over. When like the overall millions of customers out there, they're not spending their time doing this. They're just buying the products. They're just buying it.
No, it definitely, you start asking yourself, how much is it worth your time to save money when you actually consider how much time it took to save that money?
And how much money are you saving, right?
Yeah. All right, let's take a couple more questions. We'll do 2 more questions and we'll get out of here because we've been going for an hour and a half. Is Black Bolt a good long-term hold considering the Seismitoad and the SIRs in the monochrome?
Yeah, it's early. Like long-term, I like it, but it's early. I mean,
he said long-term. I mean, here's the thing. It's pretty hard to find something that's not good long-term. So, I mean, generally speaking, yes, but I think just if you look at the set overall, I think it'll do very well. I think Black and White, honestly, this sounds crazy right now. I think it's going to do insanely well, so well long-term because...
Well, you know, like the Zekrom, I believe I think it's in the top 5 most expensive cards in the era.
Really? Dude, I don't think people understand how much nostalgia kicks like happen. Like it happened with Arceus, and when that came out, you saw a huge amount of level X's. We're now seeing XY era stuff get pumped up. And you can't tell me that they just skipped Black and White and said, we're not going to come out with some form of a game for Black and White. They are going to do Unova fan service. And when they do, this set is going to be insane. The nostalgia hype for it will go crazy. Because people get nostalgia.
Reprint tag teams.
Dude, nostalgia happens, bro. People love to get nostalgic over stuff. And when you have a bunch of people that are Gen 5 stands, they're going to get really nostalgic over something like this in the long term. Like, just saying. So that's something you got to take into consideration. So it's going to be one that's going to take its time, though. It's going to be looked at and be like, well, I'm not a Gen 5 fan. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it will happen. All right, we'll do one last question. I'm trying to think if there's one I want to pick in particular. Hidden Fates questions every week.
Every week, dude.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
The answer is always Hidden Fates, no matter what your question is. Like, what do you want to eat dinner tonight? Hidden Fates. Where do you want to go on vacation? Hidden Fates. What do you want for your birthday? Hidden Fates.
I have so many questions. I'm just trying to choose one that I like the most. Here's one. This will be a fun one.
All right.
What card or cards from the SV era do you think can appreciate similarly? By the way, Latios and Latios from Team Up did.
It's a hard one, dude.
I assume we're talking raw, right? So let's not talk graded here. Let's talk raw.
Bubble Mew.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a great one. I loved the Bubble Mew when it first came out. That was one of my cards I was a huge fan of.
Immensely popular set. Also has the Charizard in there. It's going to help drive the pack price and sealed price up. Already top tier hit. Already had massive like heights. I think Paldean Fates and Bubble Mew can do extremely well. It's going out of print in this next spring. It's in the first block. So if these reprints are true and there's going to be Black Friday or Christmas deals on Paldean Fates product, that'd be a great thing to pick up. We don't have much longer for Paldean Fates. And when that happens, man, Bubble Mew is probably doing nothing but going up slowly over time.
Yeah. No, I think that makes the most sense. I mean, it's hard not to say the Magikarp, right? I feel like that's an easy one, graded or ungraded. I mean, we're just talking a card right now that's at a $300 price point, right? Which is crazy if you're just saying what it was when it first came out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the question is like, are we looking at? I guess how I look at it is one that comes out of nowhere, right? Because we can easily look and say, oh, the Moonbreon, that one's already expensive. It'll probably keep getting more expensive, you know?
Yeah.
But like the Magikarp, the price of what it is currently, I mean, I could easily see that being a $1,000 raw card. Sounds crazy to say, but
yeah,
you could easily make an argument it's extremely undervalued. So, because people like the cool art designs. That's realistically what it is. People want the really nice art designs that are fun to collect. The Bubble Mew is that, and it's a shiny Pokemon and a popular character.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because it's easy to go Moonbreon, but it's like.
But I think it's already expensive. Like, I don't think it's going to have that meteoric rise.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I look at the Magikarp, because people say it's expensive, but realistically, the part that's expensive is the PSA 10 because of the grade.
Yep.
That's why. But if you realistically look at the raw and you say it's one of the biggest chases in the set, if not the biggest chase in the set, and it's only $300, where you've got other sets that have $500+ cards, that feels cheap. Which I get it. It's an IR. It's not an SIR. So that aspect of it makes sense, but still, it's extremely difficult to pull.
Yeah.
Like I opened 1,000 packs of Paldea and I didn't get it.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like 1 in 480?
I did a stream. I literally did a stream where I opened 1,000 packs of it and I didn't get it.
Oh, it sucks, dude.
So, I mean, this was back in the day, guys. This was back when like booster boxes were $80 a pop. So this is not like, you know, but.
You just triggered people saying that right there.
I know, right? I'm sorry, guys. Boxes, you may not believe it, for that set used to be $80.
But, I remember like scrolling through your program, just trying to decide: do I want to buy Obsidian ETBs at 25 a piece, or do I want to get the Paradox Rift at 83?
Yeah, right.
That's how it was.
What's a better deal right now, man? Should I get the Lost Origin or the Silver Tempest sleeved boosters for $360 or $345? I just don't know.
I know the Lost Origin reprint is coming. Like, do I want a few cases or more cases? Like, it's still going to be higher than it was in the initial release.
Oh, I know, dude.
They want 110 a box now instead of 85. Like,
oh my God, what a scam. It's so funny. It is crazy to think how
problems of the old world.
All right. Got anything you want to say before we get out of here?
That's it, man. Phantasmal Flames tonight. We're pulling the Charizard, dude.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you all so much for stopping by. Really appreciate the support as always. Leave a like, comment down below, subscribe. Really helps out. And if you want to see Alex, his link is down in the description below. We will see you all next Monday. Peace.